Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So, like a lot of my videos come together, this video actually came up, or the idea of doing something with this topic today came up several months ago. A friend of mine, another African American who still lives in Brazil, he sent me this full length interview. Uh, I don't know, it had to have been between 4, maybe 6 months ago. I don't remember when the video went up, but it's like like I said, it's like a 2 hour interview. Um, and the subject of today's video, the journalist who's talking, who's doing most of the talking, he he chopped up a bunch of different topics in this interview. There was also a woman who was known for her participation in the ever popular Big Brother Brazil reality series. But I want to focus on something that he said. Now, he started to chime in on what he was talking about towards the end of that particular topic in the interview. And I'm going to talk about that as well. Both of them were just kind of, chopping it up about the topic. And this is a topic that I talk about a lot anyway. So I definitely wanted to cover this. I thought it was intriguing what he said because he confirmed a lot of things that I already knew. Yeah, it's an open discussion now. Everybody wants to talk about this topic, and I think it should be talked about. I know people say, "Well, hey, this is personal. Why are you bringing up why are you bringing political into the personal?" Because unfortunately, like I said, in whatever country you go to that's based on a racial hierarchy, relationships get politicized as well. Whether we talk about in the United States saying it is absolutely illegal for people of different races to marry, or you go to Brazil where the policy was we want to mix everybody until the darker elements of the population, the black and brown, the indigenous, that phenotype we wanted to disappear. So unfortunately, when you start putting ideals or politics or policies into force, you make these relationships political. And I will continue to argue that. So today I want to talk about something that journalist Manoel Soares, he said in this interview. I think I posted a video with him about a week ago, maybe, because, guy, I don't agree with everything that Manoel Soares says, but he's a prominent black journalist in Brazil. And I think he brings a lot to the discussion. So I just wanted to focus on this little, like, 2.5 minute piece where he talked about black women and their dating experiences. Let me just get into the video. Just for now, if you could just take a moment, take 5 seconds and just subscribe to the channel and like this video. If you like the video, then share the video, consider subscribing to the channel, click on the notification bell, so you'll be one of the first people to be able to have access to a new video when I put it up. So the title of today's video: why should I get a man who's not on my level just because he's black? Do successful black Brazilian women only get with men on their professional level? It's a good question to ask. So let's just get into this. So on the right here, this is Manoel Soares. He's a popular journalist in Brazil. On the left, this is actually just a picture from a popular novella from, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, maybe a little longer, maybe less. Somewhere, I don't know, 2019 to 2020, 21. Don't remember when this novella came out, but this is actress Erika Januza and the actor that she was shown in a racial relationship on that particular novella. So today's topic crosses again into this topic of what I call palmitagem. It's this question of whether black Brazilians have this predilection to choose white partners for long-term relationships that, form families, lead to children. It's a hot topic that's been going on for a number of years. Usually the accusation is pointed towards black Brazilian men, but increasingly people have noticed, like, why are black Brazilian women always pointing a finger at black men? When the fact is, black women are almost as likely to marry across racial lines as well. This is an article from 2016. Why do black women blame black men for wanting white women when they too worship white men? We as black people have all been conditioned. So that speaks for itself. The relationships between black men and black women have always been a little bit complex because, as I've said for years, black Brazilians have been indoctrinated to prefer white or near white partners to produce lighter skinned children. So we can't say that this is just a thing that affects Black women, because Black men and Black women both came up in Brazil, so they would be equally affected by this. The solidão da mulher negra, the loneliness of Black women, is just a point that says Black women, it takes them more time to be able to secure long-term relationships. That's what that's all about. Some women never actually make it to getting married. Okay. I wanted to talk about Manoel Soares, again, this journalist here. And the question of his wife came up. I remember a few years ago, I used to buy this magazine called Raça Brazil. It's the longest running print magazine that targeted toward the Afro-Brazilian population. And I saw him on the cover one year with one of his sons, and I just looked at his son's skin color, and because it's so the norm when you see prominent Black Brazilian men, generally they're going to be married to white women. So I just automatically assume, considering his skin color and the light skin of his child, like, okay, he must have married white as well. So this is his family. This is Manoel Soares with his family, and this is his wife, right? So I have to admit, when I first looked at his wife, at first glance, I thought she was white. But then as I looked at a few more pictures, this is his wife as well. Another picture of him and his wife. There was one particular picture. This is his wife. I guess she's hosting a podcast as well. And when I started looking at her again, because when I listened to the interview for the first time, he mentioned how his wife was Black. And I says, what? And sometimes, this is what I'm saying, when you have people who are mixed, the mestizo look, if you don't really look at them, sometimes because of light skin, you might automatically assume that this person is white until you actually take a good look, like, oh. So then this was the picture that I saw, that I was like, okay, she doesn't, based on this picture right here, I was like, okay, she fooled me when I first looked at her, but I'm like, no, I don't see that as a white woman. Some people would say she's a parda, brown, mestiza, mixed race, but I'm saying in this picture, obviously it's a little bit after they had another baby. I clearly see that this woman, you can call her Black, you can call her mixed, whatever, but I don't see her as white, right? And Manoel Soares understands this. He mentioned this in part of the video. Let me get into this real quick. Before I move on, this is Natalia Deodato. She, as I said, she appeared on the 22nd edition of Big Brother Brazil. I think she has vitiligo. You see quite the blemishes on her all over her body. She's from Belo Horizonte. She's a model and I guess a nail designer, it says. Now, she made headlines when, I guess, on Big Brother Brazil 22, she was trying to get with this white guy on the show, and then he just dismissed her, and he got with this white girl, and she just broke down crying, like, oh my God, this is another symbol of why Black women are so lonely, because people keep passing us over. Okay, so this video that I'm focusing on, it comes from, I think it's called the Joel Jota YouTube channel, and Manoel Soares, and this is the host, and Natalia Deodato, they talked about a lot of issues on this particular video. It says the reality of Blacks in Brazil. So the question, and a lot comes out of this, is so much that can be, analyzed about, what he came to say about what Black women tell him about their dating preferences. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to just overdub what he said, and at the end, Natalia also jumped in and left some of her opinion. So let me do an overdub, and then I'm going to come back.
Quanto mais a pessoa negra ascende socialmente,
so the more the Black person ascends socially, the greater the chances of them having relationships with white-skinned people. Today, there's Black girls that Black women are much more academically positioned than men, much better positioned. I have a bunch of Black female friends who are married to white men. A bunch. And then I went to ask, right? Because my wife, she's the same color as Natalia, a little lighter. And then, no, my wife is Black. If I was in the United States, they'd say my wife was Black. Then here in Brazil, they question this Blackness, but that's fine. It's okay too. Yeah, the same way I think you're Black. Denora, she has more or less your aesthetic profile. I say it's all good. And then I went to talk to this Black female friend of mine who's married to a white man. I said, what's up, nigga? What? Man, you got it in for us crazy. Now, you're all stuck on the pink guys. It's all right. It's all right. Then she told me, she
meus
said,
35
Manoel, I
anos de
studied.
vida,
Of my
eu passei
35 years of
16
life, I
sem
spent
sair,
16 without
só
going out,
estudando. Eu
just
sou PhD
studying.
no que eu faço, eu falo 4 idiomas.
I'm a
E
PhD in what I
todo
do.
homem que eu peguei
I speak
gastava
4
parte do meu dinheiro
languages.
no samba
And
final
every
de
man I
semana.
picked spent part of my money on the
Não queria
weekend samba.
estudar.
Entendi.
He didn't
Então,
want to
assim, você
study.
acha certo que agora, só para
Understand.
atender uma agenda
So do you think
racial,
it's
eu,
right that
mulher negra,
now,
que
just to
batalhei
meet a
pra
racial
caramba,
agenda,
eu
I, a black woman who
seja
worked so hard,
obrigada a viver
am
com
forced to
alguém
live with
que não
someone
fez o
who didn't make
investimento que
the
eu
same
fiz em mim?
investment?
Caraca, essa é porrada.
I made it
E
myself.
eu olhei para ela e falei bem assim, ela disse, desculpa,
Geez, she
são
blasted me,
poucos
huh?
os homens negros
And I
que
looked at her and
têm
said, she said,
condição
I'm
de
sorry, there are
dialogar
very
ombro a
few
ombro
black men that
comigo.
I've met who can
Foram
talk to me
poucos que
shoulder
eu
to shoulder.
encontrei. Cara,
There
para
are
você
very
acertar uma
few that I've
bala
met.
com a bala menor
Man, you've
ainda,
got an even smaller
você não
pool to
tem
choose
homem
from.
preto nesse lugar.
You don't
Essa
have
mulher
any black
preta
men in this
está.
place where this black
E os
woman
poucos
is.
que tem
And the few who do
não conseguem tocar o
can't
coração dela,
touch
até
her
porque
heart.
o amor é isso. Então,
Because that's
Tem
what love
alguns
is.
que até conseguem ter
And
esse
there are some
diálogo,
who even manage to
mas
have this
mesmo com esse
dialogue.
diálogo,
But
eles não
even
dão
with this
preferência pras
dialogue,
pretas.
they don't
isso.
give preference
Porque o
to black
universo,
women.
né, dos
That's
Os
it.
poucos que
poucos
Because the
que
universe isn't
conseguem
true.
ter esse
Of the few
diálogo,
Pouco com
who
pouco,
manage to have
mesmo
this dialogue, there are
eles
few.
não
se acham,
assumem.
And even then,
conectam.
they don't
Eles
find
não
each other. They
assumem.
don't connect. They don't
Não
take
digo nem
on
que é amor, eu
a
digo
black
muito que é
woman.
questão de escolha mesmo.
Okay, so you heard what the conversation was there. So my question is, you know, this has been a conversation that's been going on in the United States for a while in what they call the manosphere. But, you know, I've covered a few videos in the last, I don't know, 6 months talking about relationships and, you know, how people think that feminism plays a role in how relationships work. But then they're also talking about a topic that a lot people who follow the relationship discussion in the United States that they call hypergamia feminina, you know, feminine hypergamy is what they call it in Brazil. So you'll see quite a few videos online. If you know how to listen, if you can understand Portuguese, you'll hear some of the same discussions going on in Brazil about what they call hypergamy. So then if you listen to what Manoel Soares is saying about what his successful black female friends are saying, like they invested a lot in their, you know, education to be able to pursue a better life, a better education, a better career. And so then the question is, I made a success out of myself. The men who I try to get with, they don't want to study, you know, improve their lives, get somewhere, you know, get out and get something. So just because of a racial agenda, should I get with a guy just because he's black, even if he's not on the level that I'm on? And then she says that in the circles that she's in, obviously in a professional circle, or she's in a middle class neighborhood, she's not going to find many available black men. You're going to have to choose from, you know, black men who are already, you know, if you got, you know, popular soccer players or, you know, lawyers, doctors, journalists, whatever position they may have, they're in the same scenario. That black man is going to be surrounded by white women as well. So you not only are you going to compete for those black men who may not even be into black women. They might already be with a white woman, but on both sides, black men and black women who have attained middle class status, even though this is increasing over the years, you still have very few black people in these positions so that they can actually interact. It works a little bit different because in the United States, even though this is the case in the same situation in some ways in the United States, black people being in situations, the higher up they go on the social ladder, they're going to be running into more people who are not black. But in the United States, you can still find communities, successful black communities of black people. Or if some of these people might go to the same black church, they still have a connection to the black community. Whereas in Brazil, first of all, there's never been just completely black neighborhoods. So black Brazilians will have to go out of their way to try to meet with another person who's black. And then you throw into that dynamic, okay, I also want a black person who's as successful as I am. So then there's a lot at play here. So what Manoel Soares shared about what his successful black female friends are saying, it speaks volumes to how it's like black Brazilians are set up to disappear. Brazil set them on the path to disappearance because no matter what level, unless you're going to stay in a favela, a low income area, it's automatic. You go into mostly middle class neighborhoods in Brazil, they're going to be majority black and majority white. So if you go there and you do run into one black person, chances are very highly likely that their partner, whether they are male or female, they're probably going to be married white. It's just the nature of how Brazil is structured. So this is why I say, in some ways, Brazil's type of racism and the way that it keeps its its foot on the black population's neck, it's a lot more successful in Brazil than it is in the United States. Now we have a situation where black Brazilians are saying, hey, look, we should try, black men and black women, we need to start coming together. We'll never change this dynamic if we don't get together. So they're producing, dating apps specifically for black people. There are Facebook groups. There are websites, specializing in trying to get black men and black women to get together in Brazil, right? So this is intriguing. How do we? It's been a point that's been talked about in the manosphere for a while. Okay, I've known African American. This is what's funny, because when we talk about this movement called the Passport Bros, when we hear that a lot of American men, specifically black men, are traveling to other countries to find a certain type of woman or whatever, so then you get this idea that women can just jump on a plane and also do the same thing that the men can do, and it doesn't work that way. And the very reason is what we're talking about with this idea of hypergamy. A black man or any type of man can go to Brazil or any other country and maybe connect with a woman, because it's going to be expected that he has the resources to be able to take care of a woman and take care of a family. On the flip side, and I've known several black American women who have gone to Brazil and talk about how complicated it is to get with a Brazilian guy, specifically a black guy, any type of Brazilian guy, because the point is his economic power is not going to be on the same level as what you have, particularly if you're middle class American. Okay. So you go there and you have the idea that as a woman, the man is supposed to make more than me. You might have a problem going to Brazil and trying to find a man, because first of all, what is his career? You have this idea, you have this $1 is worth 5 reais. So a man in Brazil, to meet the economic standard of an American woman, he would have to have an extremely high level of income. Okay. On the flip side, most men don't really care what a woman does. He's not going to care if she works at Burger King, whatever she might do. She might do nails. And I'm not saying, obviously, there are women who are in upper income, the upper echelon of, types of careers. There are. But that type of woman is not going to be looking for an average man. She's going to be looking for a man who's above her financially in terms of his career. The man is not going to be looking for a woman who's competing with him on that level. So whereas the woman is dating, she always have to have a guy who's more successful than her and makes more money than her. It's going to make that difficult for that woman to find a man. The pool is going to be extremely small. On the flip side, men don't really care what the woman does. It's assumed that he's already going to be the breadwinner in the household if he chooses this woman. So the dynamic is absolutely not the same. I've seen too many black American women go to Brazil and come back frustrated. Like, I can't get with this man. I'm going to have to take care of him, So as long as it's like a catch-22. It's like the woman wants a man who makes more money and is more successful than her, but that man is probably not going to want to deal with a boss lady like her. On the flip side, as much as the women say, I want to be in a position where I'm the boss, but when you become the boss, it's still not good enough because you still can't deal with a man who's earning less money. So here we see the same dynamic that's playing out in Brazil. And according to what Manoel Soares has said, and this is not the first time I've heard this, black Brazilian women who are climbing that social ladder are saying, I'm not going to deal with a man who's not on my level. If he's not shoulder to shoulder with me, I can't deal with him. So in order to get a man who is perhaps on her level, she's going to have to turn a white man, because a majority of men who are in that position in Brazil are going to be white. So it's what a couple other Brazilian YouTubers have talked about. It's like, okay, it's not that black men don't want you. It's just that the black Brazilian men that you want, they got mad selection, and you're going to have to be something extra special for him to choose you. And if you come to the table with the boss mentality, maybe he doesn't want to deal with that type of woman. So we see the same dynamic playing out in Brazil. So, word to the wise for people who look forward to meeting new people in Brazil, it's going to be much easier for men to go to Brazil and connect with women than it is going to be for women who's looking for a long-term relationship with a man, because it's possible she's going to have a higher socioeconomic standing and professional status than the man that she finds in Brazil, right? Just something to think about. I want to cover a little bit more of this in the future. But the other thing I want to point out with what Manoel Soares was talking about was just talking about his wife, because as I said, at first look, I thought she was white till I took a really good look at her. Like, okay, I can see it. And he said what I've said a long time ago, In Brazil, a person can be considered white even if they're clearly have some mixture going on. In the United States, he correctly pointed it out. In the United States, people would see my wife as black. Now, I want to throw an extra piece in there because it's not exactly that way. If this woman was born in the United States to two black parents, or even at least one black parent, people would be more likely to accept her as black. But because she's Brazilian, she would probably speak with a Portuguese accent. It wouldn't be as immediate to say black Americans would accept her as black, because black Americans have this thing where, okay, black American, you know? So I've always thrown in the extra. I says, yeah, okay, black Brazilians can come to the United States and people will accept. I'm not going to say they would accept them immediately as black, because there's been stories where clearly black looking black Brazilians were not accepted among black Americans. So there's a few things you have to consider here. Black Brazilians are not born in the United States. They speak with an accent. They come from Latin America. So it's not as easy. I can't say that if she came to the United States, people would automatically label her as black, because I've seen too many Brazilian women who to me were clearly black, or even if they were light skinned, and black Americans will get confused about who they are. I'm like, I see a black person because I know Africans were shipped throughout the Americas, but it gets so complex. But I'll just say, if his wife looked the way that she looked, and she was born and raised in a black community, had at least one black parent, then I would say she would be accepted as black in the United States. But in the Brazilian context, that's a little bit more complex when they come to the US. Okay. So anyway, I'm curious to know what you all thought about this today's video. I thought Manoel Soares pointed out, he made a really good point. And him saying that, it brings a lot more depth into this conversation about, okay, is it true that black men are just passing up black women? They just don't want black women, or is there something else going on here? This is a topic I never get tired of looking at. Anyway, what are your thoughts now? What did you think of this video? Drop a comment in the comment section. Like this video, share this video, consider subscribing to the channel. Click on the notification bell so you'll be aware when I put up a new video. And with that said, I'm gonna end this video today, right now, and gonna request that you all come back and check out the next video that I post.